I'm not a morning person.
Dedicated to being passionate about it.
Bodybuilders have become more lazy.
People have always thought I lift fake weights.
Iran and the United States.
You take responsibility for that.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Good to meet you.
Yeah, you as well.
First of all, congratulations to winning some big shows this year, man. You got Tampa, and you got Texas Pro.
Yep.
How does it feel, man?
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's Texas especially, going down there and beating Steve on his home turf was a big one for sure. So, it just feels good to be rewarded for what you've been working so hard for, right?
Absolutely, man. I think, out of the new school of bodybuilders right now, obviously, people talk about Nick Walker all the time and Hunter Labrada, and you're right there, man. And in many ways, you are the star currently of the new school of bodybuilding.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good guys coming up, and just to be in the conversation is great. So, I'm trying my best, and I'll get at the Arnold. We'll get to kind of all step on stage together, so it'll be fun to kind of see where everybody falls come September, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing the Arnold, right? It's coming up in a few weeks.
I'm doing the Arnold, and then 2 weeks later the Olympia. Yeah,
and that's going to be it's going to be great because it's a very interesting lineup this year. There's a lot of guys doing it. And how do you feel about it going in?
Yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. I mean, there's so many guys. Obviously you got to look at it. Bonak's got to be the clear favorite if you're looking at just from paperwork. But after that, I mean, it's a very open field. I mean, there's any guy, like a handful of maybe 5 or 6 guys on any day coming. If they come in good, they could win that show or be second in that show. So, there's a lot of opportunities there to be had. It's not like 5-6 years ago Olympia where the top 5 was so set in stone that Arnold is very wide open. So, you have any guys like, said me or Nick or, I know Kuclo will be back with a vengeance and, Sergio and Akeem and all these kind of guys that could, on any given day, if one guy's off and one guy's at their best, I mean, could go from first down to sixth, or vice versa. Right. So it makes it very exciting because it's hard to even predict the show because it really just comes down to who's good on what day because we're all so close in terms of our capabilities as bodybuilders, right?
Absolutely. I agree with you. Now, do you follow other, let's say there's a big show coming up, right? Do you follow anybody's progress at all?
Yeah, I mean, like I follow bodybuilding as a fan. I mean, even not as a competitor, right? So, I mean, all these guys are my friends and I follow them, because I'm fans of their careers. So even if I'm not following them, to keep an eye on how they look. I mean, I'm following them because I'm just fans of their careers and I want to see their progress and I want to see what they're doing. And, I enjoy seeing how other guys are training and what they're up to. So, I'd be lying to say that we don't look to see how everybody else is looking. I mean, obviously, going into the show like Texas, I mean, I follow Steve. If Steve would post an update, I'd be like, shit, Steve looks good. Or I think in my head, oh, maybe I could beat this. It's day to day, right? So, I mean, we're all human and we all have these moments where we do compare ourselves. But I try and really limit myself into doing too much comparing based off pictures because I know pictures and what, shows up on the stage in the lights can be vastly different. I mean, even I've posted pictures where, you get the perfect moment of light or you get some good downlighting in a hotel and you look crazy and, it looks nuts, right? So, you need to take everything with a grain of salt online, but I know that when, push comes to shove on stage, it can be a very different story, right?
I was wondering about that. Going into the competition, right, mentally, like let's say, do you feel better when you feel like maybe you're not going to be your best and that way you kind of like more focus? Or do you feel better when you feel like other competitors maybe not as good as you going into a competition? Like, well, mentally, what works better for you?
I'm someone that's not... I think having that added level of confidence goes a long way for me. And I think that showed big time, especially in a show like Texas, where I already had the win under my belt. I know I looked good in Tampa and then I knew I was going to be even better. So, I felt that energy coming out on stage in Texas. I felt a lot more confident. And I knew that I was definitely going to be in the front running no matter who showed up at what capability, I knew that I would be in that mix. So, I mean, it's, I always try and not focus too much on it, but I mean, it's something that you always see, of course.
Yeah, you winning Texas was really big, because Steve Kuclo is, he's a veteran, you know what I'm saying? And he represents.
Yeah, I mean, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to do the show. I mean, it was obviously from a logistics standpoint. I mean, I'm flying in from Canada. When you're flying in, you got to do your COVID testing and all this stuff. So it's, if I'm down the US and it's a, hour and a half, 2 hour flight from Tampa to Dallas, it's like, and they're a week apart, why not do the show, right? I mean, there's more opportunities to win money. there's more opportunities to get in front of the judges, and more opportunities to get on stage and just learn being comfortable on stage and learning my peaking process and all these things. It's all valuable intel that is really invaluable, right? So, but on top of that, I knew Steve had always been someone that was close to me, but always a few steps ahead. I mean, the last time we competed was the 2018 Olympia, and then we'd done 2018 Indy Pro before that, and he was always like, if he won the Indy Pro, I was like third or fourth, and if he was sixth at the Olympia, I was 12th. So he was kind of always a few steps ahead of me, and I knew I'd improved a lot in the last 3 years since we competed against each other. So I want to use that kind of as a benchmark going into the bigger shows like the Arnold and the Olympia this year, to see kind of where I stood and where I thought I could. My capabilities had increased since the last time I competed against guys that were in that top tier echelon. So, I've always looked up to Steve. I mean, he's a physique I really love. He's a very complete bodybuilder. He's a consummate professional in terms of how he conducts himself, so it was, nothing but good things to say about Steve, and getting the chance to compete against him and beat him was like you said, a huge thing in my career. And it being in Texas, it's, people can throw out so many things about politics and bodybuilding, blah, 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 but for me to come in to Steve's hometown and beat a top 6 guy, it really shows that there's not much bullshit going on there, right? It's the judges picked who they felt. People can have opinions, and I'm perfectly okay with people not feeling that I should have won that show, because we split points. It wasn't like it was a clear decision. I can see some shots where I agree that Steve was great, but at the end of the day, the people that matter are the judges, and the judges felt that they had a million other reasons that they could have maybe given Steve that show, in terms of he wasn't qualified, Steve's a big name, sells tickets, and that they felt on that day that I was the better bodybuilder. So I'm very happy with the way that the judging went, and that they made the decision that they felt was right, no matter any other side stories,
Well, right now, currently, right, in the state of bodybuilding, you are part of the conversation now. Not even because you won the Texas Pro, because you placed 7th at Olympia in 2020. Mm-hmm. You won a huge show last year, obviously, right? Yeah. So right now, you suddenly became the guy who's like, in a running distance. You know what I'm saying? How does it feel?
Yeah, it's humbling, obviously, and it's it's like that statement, like it's like pressure is a privilege. It's like I feel the pressure, and I know that my stock is rising, and that I know that every show I step on stage, people are expecting to see something new and better every single time. Despite how good I was in Tampa, when the initial photos came out that weren't like super HD, I was criticized heavily, but if that had been any other show last year, the year before, anything like that, people would have said, holy shit, Iain looks crazy. So I just know that people are expecting more of me every single time. And because of my Olympia showing, where I was in very good condition, I had a very big jump in placings from the last time I competed there. I know that the expectations are high for me, and they're high for me on myself as well. So, I just hope that every time I get on stage, I can be better than I was the last time. And, it's a big mountain to climb, but it's something that I'm excited to chase after, So, going into the Arnold, we just hope to be better than we were in Texas. In Texas, we were better than we were in Tampa. In Tampa, I was tried to be better than I was in the Olympia. So, as long as we think we're going in the right direction, that's really all I can ask for. And I think that the placings will fall into line, right?
Now, you already qualified for the Olympia, obviously. You won the show. You won big shows. Arnold is obviously, it's a very prestigious competition, right? But did you think about maybe skipping it to get better for Olympia, or does it, because Olympia is right after it, Did you ever think about maybe skipping Arnold?
Yeah, it was a discussion, especially after winning Texas. It's like, I knew my stock was high, and I knew that I had a lot of momentum going into the Olympia off basically the last 2 shows of the season I had won, so I knew that, if I go into the Arnold and maybe I don't place as good as I hope to, which I don't foresee happening, but, you can't control the placings. You can only control how you look, that it could hinder, my momentum, people call it. But at the end of the day, I know that I get better as shows go on. I think Tampa right to Texas 1 week apart is indicative of that. I had 6-7 days between those shows, and I was 12 to 15% better at least. And I think that the Arnold is something I've never done before. And I think the timing this year being in close proximity is actually beneficial for me. I think when it's in March, it kind of breaks up your off season. So you do the Olympia in September, you kind of have a very short downtime, you're back into that, and then the season starting in May. So I'd always been hesitant to do it because I wanted the downtime to, get healthy and make sure I was ready and had progressed going into the new season. But having a very close proximity to the Olympia, where I am qualified for the Olympia, makes the timing actually very convenient for me. So I think 2 weeks between them will only make me better for the Olympia. We'll learn a lot from the Arnold. I think I can get some good momentum from that show. I can get more stage confidence and, and stage time. So I think there's only things to be gained by doing it. And I mean, my decision to do Texas after Tampa, I mean, it's also, I'm a professional, part of my job is to compete and win shows or compete at shows and try and win money. I mean, this is how it works, right? So if I can get in another show with a big purse like the Arnold and have an opportunity to win some money and get a good placing, I'm going to take that opportunity every single time.